Hey kids, Tony Rowe here. Recording a standard game versus RM134. Okay, let's go like a little extreme. I'll let him play e5 here if he wants. And I could go reverse Alekhine's defense. That would be interesting. Okay, let's do that. Let's go reverse Alekhine's. And if he goes knight c6, I'll have to think for a second. Okay, bishop c6. Bishop d6, rather. I think I can just castle in that case. Okay, I'll go c4, I think. And if he goes e4, obviously knight d4. And I think that's probably in white's favor because it looks like an English Curie system where black has prematurely played bishop d6. And if d4, I'm thinking, I almost pre-moved d3. Been playing on Lee chess a really long time. Still don't understand how the mouse works. I think I would go e3 there. He could go c5, but somehow I think after e takes d4, c takes d4, rook d1, rook e1 rather, he'd be in some trouble. He could take, actually, now that he's played c6. Maybe I should have thought about that a little longer. c6 is often a useful move if black intends to take on c4 because it supports the b5 push and closes the long diagonal. Okay. No real choice. Have to go knight to d4. I'm not worried about c5. I think I could either go knight c2 or knight b5, and he can't push past because the e4 pawn hangs. So, and this is interesting. I'm gonna go. It allows him to go f5 is one reason why it's interesting. So I'm just gonna go d3 and start undermining this center. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I know I did. Okay, so c takes. I don't know. Already, I'm not quite sure what's happening. Maybe it's worth considering going bishop g5, knight c3, c5, knight to b5, d4. I guess in that case I can go knight takes d6 check, queen takes d6, knight b5, and then bishop b4 is coming relatively quickly. That's probably quite good for me, actually. Quite an ambitious setup by black. I could also take, then knight c3. That way he can't go c5. That also makes a fair bit of sense, doesn't it? Black's development is awfully slow. So c takes d5. I think I'm going to play c takes d5 and then knight c3. That feels the most normal to me. Fix the d5 pawn as a weakness and remove any option of c5. I don't know if c5 is that big of a deal, but the only reason I would take here is if for some reason releasing the tension were really obviously favorable for me for some reason. I guess I could have considered d takes e4, f takes e4, and then f3. He sort of would have had to take, and then... Sorry for the noise. I'm sure you can hear Morty acting like a jerk. Yeah, I think maybe f3 is in my future. Black is behind in development, so it feels like I should open up the game somehow. He's also moved the f pawn, so it makes me think that maybe I can, if he takes with the d pawn, I can go queen b3, stop him from castling if he doesn't castle right away. Now I might kind of sort of have to go t takes e4, just because I don't want to take here and reinforce the center, and retreating feels kind of lame. I could go knight d to b5 as well. But I guess if I go knight d to b5, he can just... Okay, this is starting to feel like it should be just much better for me, but... Takes with the f-pawn. Just bishop g5 probably makes a lot of sense. I don't see this really going anywhere. He always has bishop e5 as the annoying thing. Okay, so this sets up a pretty obvious threat. If h6, that saves the pawn because bishop takes. Knight takes e7, but it just looks really weakening as far as this diagonal goes. Maybe I just go e3 rather, and okay. It's almost tempting to go bishop e3, because if bishop c5, then knight a4 will pick off this bishop. And let's see, if bishop takes e7, he could play knight takes. I don't know if I'm really getting anywhere there. Man, he's really neglecting his king and his development in general. I mean, I'm sort of completely developed and he's still got a bunch of stuff to worry about here. Jeez. Knight d to b5 now? Yeah, I don't really see anything after bishop e7, knight e7. Nothing obvious, at least. There is also knight b3. It looks kind of lame to do this. I didn't really want to play this, but the one thing about knight b3 that's interesting that I didn't see at first sight is that, okay, first of all, it just protects against queen takes b2. I don't think queen takes b2 is something black can really get away with, but this protects b2, discovers knight takes d5, and it also threatens knight takes e4, which I didn't see right away. So if I just play knight b3, what does he do in response? I thought like something like knight b3, bishop e6 might be tenable, but knight e4 in that case. But bishop e3 is also tempting, because queen c7, then I just grab the two bishops, and I must be much, much better there. And if bishop e3, queen takes b2, probably just knight c to b5 or knight d to b5 is very good. One of the bishops coming to b5, I would assume, is close to terminal. Rook b1 coming, knight takes d6, and knight c7 are possible. Okay, I'm going to play bishop e3. I don't know if it's the best move, but I like the look of it. If he goes back with queen d8, then I've just gained a move for free. I've just gotten essentially bishop e3 with tempo. Because compared to this position, it'd be my turn to move again, but I'd have the bishop already on e3. So I'm okay with queen d8. It looks kind of weird to pin the knight and then once he moves the queen to like move it back, but such is chess. And yeah, bishop c5 not possible because of knight a4. Knight takes, bishop takes would also be quite bad because g7 is hanging, and Again, he can't go bishop c5 because of knight a4. Queen c7, I'm putting a knight on b5, and I assume I'm much better. Maybe queen a6. Queen a6, maybe then I go knight b3, and I hit d5, knight c5, or bishop c5 as an option. I should also consider f3 in a lot of these positions. Like, actually, queen a6, maybe just f3 immediately. Yeah, that move's not good. That move is very bad. A lot of people miss this idea for some reason. I play a lot of games in like these Englishy structures, and people always, for some reason, fall for this queen b6 and bishop c5 construction, knight a4. It must not be that obvious to most people. But I think now black should probably be close to losing somehow, I would guess, just intuitively. What does he play? Queen a5 is the only move that, or queen b4 are the only moves that actually protect the bishop. But I would assume queen a5, because queen b4, I get a3 in for free. So queen a5, knight c5, queen a5, knight c5, queen c5, knight e6 is my first thought. Maybe just knight c6 first. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of winning a piece, isn't it? This is sort of resignable now. Bishop e3, of course, is not very good because of knight a5. Yeah, which way do I take? How about this way? That way I can go b4, and he can't castle because of this knight hanging, and I think the bishop is well placed on this c5 square. And next move, I'll just go f3, and if he doesn't resign immediately, I'll go f3, that is. This would not be an unreasonable place to resign, honestly. I'll see if I can get another game with this guy since this one was so short. You gotta study those tactics. Checks, captures, threats, man. It's like there is nothing more important to becoming a good chess player than not blundering. And I say that as someone who hates that about chess. Like, I really like the positional aspect of chess, and I like to think of long-term strategies and to improve my pieces and to maneuver and try to play, as, I don't know. I mean, it's just that people have done studies on it. Like, there's not a bigger factor in raising your rating than just reducing your error rate. The best players just make less errors, and that's as simple as that, So, okay, I think I'm just gonna go f3, and if he takes, I'll probably take with the rook. That way, I'm threatening rook e3, and I'm cutting off his king from. I mean, he can't castle anyway because the knight is hanging, but just in general, I think bringing the heavy piece into play and maybe swinging this bro over to these squares seems better than taking with the bishop. But I'm sure taking with the bishop is good also. He does have bishop b5, I guess. Okay, at the very least, I can just offload with bishop e7. And if he plays bishop takes a4, then I can play b3, and I'm still up a piece, so. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because if this game stretches to like a half an hour or 45 minutes, I probably won't offer this guy a rematch. But like if he were to resign right now, it would make for a better video because we'd get 2 games in, even at the cost of maybe a little bit of my time. I feel bad posting like miniatures on my channel because I don't know. I feel like it's maybe not that great of a user experience. Like someone just blunders a piece and that's the game, and then that's the video. There's nothing really I can add that's super insightful to don't hang your stuff. So it would be kind of a bummer. Queen d4 is also a very useful candidate move to keep in mind, sneaking into places like this while still protecting the knight. I should probably just go b4 at some point, but I feel like his queen is not very good on a5, and I'd rather him not force him to retreat it to c7, which is a better square anyway, so I'm leaving it for the time being. Those of you who've watched a lot of my videos know I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I read all the books in like a period of a year, and I also watched the TV show and provided regular thoughts when the TV show was running, and they just spoiled the next season's return date. Sometime in the summer, I forget the exact date, but keep that in mind. Okay, I'm just going to take this. I'm going to just play this very simply. That way I don't have to worry about, like, you know, weird discoveries on my bishop or something, and I'm just going to stay up the piece with little in the way of complications. If he takes here b3, bishop b5, I'll just play bishop d6 or something like that. It is interesting to consider something like bishop takes a4, b3, bishop b5, f takes e4, king takes e7, e takes d5. That also looks fairly terrifying for black, but it's not really worth sacking the piece back. I mean, maybe it is objectively, but I don't see the reason why. It's theoretically possible for me to screw up the mating attack against the king on e7, but it would be incredibly hard for me to screw up a very good piece up position. Not like a piece up position where black has like a large amount of compensation for it, but just a straight piece up, where his position's probably also worse. So and those kinds of practical decisions come up all the time in chess, where you have to decide between two promising continuations, and it's usually just better to pick the lower risk if you're 100% certain. Yeah, that's fine. He can also go king takes e7, b takes a4. That doesn't look all that promising either. Yeah, I think all I have to do is basically liquidate a bunch of stuff. His king on e7 is, yeah, that's not where you want your king. But okay, I'll just play this. Might be in his best interest to just go e3, yeah. I'll play rook c1. I would expect queen b6. Worth considering is queen b6, a5. Queen takes a5, then queen d4, for instance. Queen d4 again seems very good. Queen g7 is a threat. Queen e3 is a threat. Can't move the rook on a8 right now because of this. At some point I'll probably go f4 and reopen up this bishop. But this seems pretty clear. He's losing another pawn, it looks like. This threat is quite a bit larger because queen takes g7. King e6 is the only move that does not lose the h8 rook, and then bishop a3 would be mate. So has to do something against that. Something simple like rook h to g8, I would just take on a3. It's also worth just thinking about like rook h to g8 as a tactical motif, something like rook h to g8, f4, and if it were my turn again, I could at least consider rook takes c6, queen takes c6, bishop takes g8 with a double attack on the queen on c6. And okay, so he goes that way. well, let's take on g7. He has to go king d8. And I think I'm going to go queen b7. Again, with a double attack on the rook and the pawn on c6. Rook b8, I can go queen a7 or queen c6. I'll probably just go queen c6 to bully around his queen. And that also leaves the d5 pawn weak. I really just want this guy to resign. Not in a rude way. It's just that Morty is alerting me and getting kind of upset that perhaps my blood sugar is slightly high, and I don't want to like finish this recording with a dog barking and whimpering in the background. So I want to finish recording this and then finish the game and then pause the recording. All right, but keep on playing. This is like one of I hope I don't seem like I'm being condescending to my opponent. Like I'm so great that playing this position is beneath me. He's free to not resign at whenever he wants, of course, but like you hit a certain point in chess. I'm not even saying like, my rating, but you hit a certain point where with a 300-point rating gap or 250-point rating gap and your opponent up five pawns or something, that it ceases to really be like useful to continue playing these like your expectation is so low that it's just not worth wasting the time. Like this guy could right now be using this time probably more usefully analyzing or improving his chess in some other way. Like f4 probably wasn't very accurate. Yeah, because now he has rook b1. I sort of have to do this now. It's not a huge deal, but it's just, yeah, I could have done a little bit better there. I should have just played h4. That way on rook b1 I could just takes check, and then king h2, and I wouldn't have any problems. But it's cool. Again, I'm up a bishop and 3 pawns, and another pawn. Probably the h-pawn is gonna hang relatively soon. I have rook a5 as an idea also with an attack on d5, but yeah, my bishop is not long for the g2 square. Don't know what really to say at this point. Probably won't take on h7. There really isn't any need to do so. I'd rather make some move that consolidates in some way. I'm thinking about bishop h3. That way if rook b1, then I can just go king g2. And if bishop h3, d3, then rook d7 check takes d3 is just killing, so I'll try this. And if he gives me another move where he doesn't mess with me, then bishop f5 to d3 will just completely end the game. So let's give that a whirl. This was a weird opening. Yeah, I'm just going to remove all of the fun here with this move. Now he doesn't even have rook b1 check. You can go rook b2 and bishop d3, rook takes a2, but that's not really going to help his cause all that much. Definitely, at least if you wanted to be like moderately annoying, he should have at least gone rook b1 and forced me to go and attack this pinned bishop, and at least forced me to go king g1 or king g2 and stop me. I mean, my bishop is way worse on f1 than it is on d3. Okay, not so subtle. King g2, rook d3, e takes d3, e2, king f2. So this should be fine. This guy's really doing it. Let's just go f5 and get something going. The faster I queen something, the faster he resigns, I think, so. Oh, he has king e5, doesn't he? Well, it's fine. Doesn't really matter. I'll just go g4. No, I'll just take it. I don't care. He's not going to get a stalemate out of this. And f6, sure. He's actually like 4 moves away from a legal check that doesn't lose his rook, so. Yeah, that's... Thinking about going bishop b5. Yeah, why not? Let's have a sense of humor about this. Bishop b5, and now if he goes rook c2, f7, rook c8, I have bishop e8 with a nice interference to the f8 square. And a d3, e takes d3, e2, king e3 doesn't work, so. Okay. Stopping just rook g8 check. I don't really have to, but why not? Okay. That is one way to go. Okay, and he flags. Let's analyze this one. Let's go to my studies. Let's add a new one. Okay, so usually I would go knight f3 here, and this would just be the same as knight f3, d5, g3. But I just decided to mix it up and make it kind of interesting. As far as why I might start with 1g3, usually I just use this as kind of a transpositional tool. It is kind of interesting to discuss the differences between 1c4, 1g3, 1 knight f3, if you're trying to like reach the same systems, because they all have some transpositional advantages. For instance, if your opponent plays c4, b6, and you don't really feel like playing against that, you can start with 1g3, and then of course 1b6 would be met by bishop g2, and black would be forced to make some kind of awkward decision. Similarly, if you know your opponent plays the hedgehog, g3 is the earliest possible moment to counteract black going b6 and bishop b7. So if, for instance, your opponent like tried to reach a hedgehog by I don't know, like delaying b6 and bishop b7, it makes it a little bit hard because you can play, you can play a move other than knight f3 here or something and not allow b6 and bishop b7. Is there anything else that's really relevant about going g3 over anything else? Another nice thing compared to, let's say, knight f3 is that if you go g3 first and your opponent goes c5, you're not committed to playing symmetrical English systems where the knight is already on f3. So, for instance, if you're a really big fan of, let's say, going e3 and knight g to e2 in the English, you can do that. Whereas if you play knight f3, of course, you can't do that. You're stuck with other stuff. The downside, of course, to 1g3 is that black is allowed to go e5. Compared to knight f3, that would be pretty significant. And of course, there are systems where maybe after one knight f3 that white can play now that he can't play after one g3. For instance, after g6, you can go back to e4, bishop g7, d4 if you just want to play a modern or things like that. And of course, one knight f3 would allow something like b6 or c4, c5, c4, b6 when you get kind of a hedgehog. So. And then, of course, there are benefits to going one knight f3 over any other move. You're not committed to moving the c pawn. So, of course, like one of my favorite lines that I like to talk about on my channel would be the b3 in King's Indian. Which would be this, which you can't go, of course, if you move the c pawn. There are all kinds of like weird transpositions that weird move orders that you can use between one g3, one c4, and one knight f3. Of course, one knight f3 does also not allow e5, which is pretty significant if you just want to cut down on your options, your opponent's options. But okay, so I elect to go into this reverse Alekhine's defense. I actually think e4, knight d4, c5, knight b3, c4 is the most annoying. Reason being is that this is a reverse chase variation of the Alekhine's defense, where white's extra moves are g3 and bishop g2, which black is usually not doing in the normal Alekhine's defense. So if we go back, after e4, knight f6, e5, knight d5, c4, knight b6, c5, knight d5, d4, this would be the normal chase variation. I think black is pretty happy to still have this bishop on the f8 square. Because a lot of times, well, number one, it supports d6, but number two, a lot of times it's a little bit more useful to have this bishop peeking out against this c5 pawn. But, it's interesting. I think bishop d6 is probably maybe a little bit inaccurate, I would say. It's a little more committal than, let's say, going e4 or knight c6 first. I don't know if it's bad, but I've always thought that this line is pretty challenging. And then bishop c5, white basically has to go c3, and then white needs to organize d3 or b3, but it's a little bit harder when the bishop is on g2, I think. Yeah, I did think this was interesting. This is something that I kind of missed. I think queen c2 is basically the only move. And then after this, you'd have to think about how to gain counterplay. First instinct, of course, is to go a4. What if bishop b7? My first thought is b3. C takes b3, queen takes b3, a6. Stockfish wants d4. Yeah, I mean, that makes a fair amount of sense, doesn't it? d4. Point is that e4, knight g5 is awkward because of the weakness on f7. And if he takes, I was wondering if I can go rook d1, actually. And c5 seems super risky. It is even possible for for, yeah, this because of takes, and then knight f5 with the pretty horrific threats on all of these squares. Yeah, that's very pretty. But yeah, maybe even d3 here is worth considering with like rook d1 coming, and pretty great pressure. f5 seems really risky just from the perspective of development. Bishop g5, very natural, threatening knight d5. Maybe bishop c5 here would be uncovering the queen guarding d5 is the idea. Yeah. This is interesting. Probably just better for white, honestly. This position kind of already sucks for black. It's hard to figure out what might be best. Yeah, computer likes knight b3 better. I don't know. I mean, bishop e3 is pretty obvious. Of course, my opponent falls into the only available trap. I was thinking about this first, which also obviously looks very good. And then you can just always come back, and yeah, black would be in a lot of trouble here. But yeah, flipping the move order a little bit just wins a piece. After this, it's not super exciting. Yeah, queen d4. By the way, I should say that in games that I just play on my own and not on the channel, I would turn off the engine first. But I feel like just for the sake of accuracy and for doing a quick analysis on these games, I just turn on the an engine right away to get the most accurate results right away. I don't think that's the optimal way to improve your chess. Normally, I would take a while and analyze it with my friend or analyze it with my opponent and analyze it when I get home without the engine, and then go through and make corrections afterwards, just to kind of extract every drop out of the game. But here it's a little bit impractical to do that. So yeah, okay. I mean, this is kind of not really worth talking about anymore. This game should have been over, 20 moves ago, I think. Like, realistically, this position is resignable, I think. But yeah, you have to develop in the opening. There's no develop and get your king safe. Like, this is and develop in like the most principled and flexible way I think possible. Like, I don't know, bishop d6 is, they always say knights before bishops, and usually if you can grab more central space, you should kind of do so. So it's more enticing for me to think about either e4 or knight c6 and not bishop d6. But and then, no one was forcing my opponent to play another pawn move with c6. Doesn't have to. He could have just played knight f6 or another developing move. And then, of course, knight e7 is a somewhat logical, but also a little bit more passive square. And then he goes f5 and brings the queen out instead of castling, and things start to become kind of critical. Even here, black is in a lot of trouble. Like, yeah, I analyzed queen d8 and then f3, e takes f3. I thought rook f3, and black must be in a lot of trouble here. Just, he can't castle. He's behind in development. White has a lot of pressure on the isolated d pawn. So yeah, already I think my opponent was in some trouble, and it was principally due to just kind of unprincipled and a little bit poor play in the opening. And then there was the one tactical blunder with bishop c5, and the game completely ends after knight a4. So not much to talk about other than that. Tough one for RM134. Hope to catch him again, and I hope to